Hi, everyone. You guys ready to learn about how to make and receive offers? Has anyone written an
Of
offer?
course we are. Yes, we are ready.
Thank you. For those of you who are joining now, hi, I'm Leslie Inlander. I am in the Livingston, New Jersey office, if you cannot tell from my New Jersey accent. Welcome to Ignite Session 17, Make and Receive Offers. If you haven't already signed in the chat, please sign in with your name, your market center, and your email. That would be great. So I'm going to get started. My name, if you haven't heard, is Leslie Inlander. I am in Livingston, New Jersey. I have been with Keller Williams 10 years as a sales regular real estate agent. And I have been teaching Ignite and other coaching classes for about 4 and 5 years. I started off my first day, I went into an Ignite class and I went from there. So if I could stress one thing to you guys, take the time, take the training. Ignite really, really helped me. I had no real estate experience at all. Is everybody on this call fairly new or part-timers?
Yes.
New, part-time, or both?
I'm new. I'm 5 months in.
Oh, congratulations. Where are you based out of?
Augusta, Georgia.
Great, awesome. Have you written any offers yet?
I did last week, my first. Well,
Congratulations.
only my second, but it's the first accepted. So
That's a pretty good ratio.
yes, thank you.
That's great. So I really, you guys don't want to sit here and listen to me talk and talk and talk. This class is about you guys. So I want to make sure that I answer any and all of your questions. There's no question that is not worth asking if it's a question in your head. So please make this as conversational as possible because it's about all of you. And I want to make sure that I answer all of your questions, comments, thoughts, experiences, because we can all benefit from learning from each other. And the experiences that we have in the different parts of the country is really invaluable. So we're going to start and talk about making and receiving offers. Again, we have a few of you that's actually had some closing and made and receive offers. Can somebody give me an idea? Because I know how my market is here in New Jersey. How's everybody's spring market starting off?
Mississippi is still a pretty much, strong seller market.
Okay.
I started the end of October. I'm a brand new agent. I have my 4th closing next Friday.
Wow, we got a rock star on our hands.
Well, thank you. It's been exciting. But also, I haven't had any listings yet. And there has been so many homes that, are only on the market still here 3-4 days or 1 day. So we're still seeing a lot of the selling market. So
yep, same here. Anybody else from a different part of the country? You seeing a seller's market, low inventory?
Seller's market.
Where are you?
Sure. Like Albany, New York area.
Albany, yeah, East
There's
Coast.
not enough houses for the amount of buyers still looking, even with the interest rate.
Yeah, that's what's happening. And I think it's going to take a few years for the inventory to catch up at best. So I don't think this is going away anytime soon. That's why this class is really important, because when you do get a buyer or a listing, you really need to make sure that you put your best foot forward when you put that offer in, especially if you're the buying agent. Would you guys agree with that? Because I don't know about you guys, but I can't remember recently that I put an offer in that I wasn't in a competitive situation or highest and best. So how we present ourselves or present our clients is really, really critical. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Again, for those of you who have joined, please sign in the chat with your market center and your email. That would be great. So today we're going to talk about the actual transaction. Now you've got that buyer, taken them around. You've looked at God knows how many houses.
We still
Now
didn't
they're finally ready to make an offer.
take the contract.
Right. Now you got to write the contract and you've got to get them the house. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'd like to think of sales as the ability to gracefully persuade, not manipulate a person or persons into a win-win situation. So we've got to try to put both sides in a win-win, where the other side, whether it's the buying side or the seller side, feels comfortable with doing business with your client. So the last class you worked on buyers and sellers from agreement through getting in, right now. And today we're going to cover the whole process, the steps to submitting and reviewing offers as a listing agent. And hopefully by the end of the session, You'll know how to communicate with your buyers, sellers, and other agents and understand the best practices in writing an offer. So here we are. The buyer, we'll start with the buyer. The buyer makes an offer. Do you think those buyers, especially if they're first-time home buyers, have a lot of emotion in this? You think they're scared?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You think they got a million things running through their head, like, oh my God, what am I about to do?
Yes.
So what do you think one of your main jobs is as their representative?
Educate.
Educate. Good. What else?
Decrease the anxiety level.
Yes. Yes. Right? Because they're worried, they're anxious, they're cautious, they're impatient. So all of those things, and rightly so. I mean, if whoever's anybody on this call ever bought their first house, condo, whatever it is, did you feel some of those emotions?
Yes, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. So our job, the best thing that we can do for our clients is keep it right here, I like to say. You need to be the voice of reason and be the one that's going to be calm and rational, especially when you're in a competitive situation, which unfortunately, it sounds like in a lot of the country, we still are in a seller's market. So you have to be their voice of reason and remain professional. And when I first started, I have to tell you, I did let my emotions a little bit get the best of me. And it took me a little while to realize I have to pull it back. It's not my transaction. I'm here to represent, and I'm here to keep them calm and rational and not kill each other and communicate in the timeliest manners that I can. Has anybody dealt with buyers or sellers that haven't been calm and rational? Yes.
Yes.
And how did you handle it?
Well, he ended up, it was so bad that the seller was also the owner of the company that flipped the house. And so the buyer ended up getting the seller's contact information and actually called him, and it was not a pleasant conversation. So I actually terminated that buyer's agreement because I just can't work with anybody like that, they didn't listen to any advice that I was giving them, and it was horrible. It was a horrible experience.
So in their family. So I understand
Yes.
how awful that feels.
Yeah, it's not and don't forget, guys, it happens to everybody. We all have had a bad experience, and I can't say that you're never going to have another one again. It'll just be maybe, you'll be more educated on the side and maybe, in the front, and maybe you'll see the signs earlier and you'll say, you know what, I don't need to work with somebody like that, earlier in the process, because you're all busy people and your time is valuable, and you want to work with people that know, like, and trust you, and they're going to listen to what you say. So your buyer decides they want to make an offer. What are the three ways here the seller can respond, right? Or in a highest and best. They could come back with a counter, they could accept, or they could reject. Those are the three things that are going to happen. And then at that point, you're going to either negotiate and begin the contract to close, or you're going to do some back and forth, because if you counter the offer, you're going to negotiate. If you accept the offer right up front, congratulations, God bless, and you're going into contract, or you try to find out why the listing agent or the sellers rejected your offer. Are people mostly working with multiple offers and highest and bests in your area?
Yes.
Who said yes?
Vicky
Vicky.
in New
Thank you for
York.
answering, Vicky. Where are you from?
Albany, New York area.
Albany. That's right. Albany's in
Yeah.
the house. So we're still we're at highest and best in Albany.
Absolutely.
How about in Mississippi?
Very specific areas. So areas of Brandon and Madison.
Anybody on the West Coast, Midwest? I know somebody from Indianapolis was on the phone.
Yes, we're still doing it here.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's more yes than no. So it's really, we're going to talk about highest and bests and what's been happening, at least from a general perspective, how you handle them, because every area of the country is going to be a little bit different. So please be interactive, give us some advice, what's worked for you, what's not worked for you, questions, because we're all here to help each other. So now your buyer wants to write the offer, right? Obviously, the property is still available, but I always, I went on an appointment the other day and I printed out I was taking a client out to an open house, and I printed out the MLS sheet the day before. I was trying to be organized. We go to the open house and there's a big sign on the door that says open house canceled, accepted offer. So that's happening again too. People are not even making it to the open houses. So shame on me. I should have checked again in the morning to make sure that the property was still available. And, if your client is wanting to make an offer, gotta let the listing agent know. And that's when you're gonna start building your rapport right then and there with that listing agent. And hopefully maybe, you maybe the agent, they're in your office, there's some sort of relationship there because our reputation is everything. So it's really important that you treat everybody, with professionalism and respect going through this and try to build as much rapport right up front with the listing agent. Gather as much information about the seller and the property as possible. What's their motivation? Why are they moving? What's important to them? What are they looking for in the offer? Ask them how many number of showings that they have. I don't know how many of you have showing time or something like it, but it's a very good indication of the popularity of the house if you go on showing time and there's no appointments. So I always either look or ask the listing agent how many showings that they have. If the house is just coming on the market, or even if it's been on for a couple of days, do you have any offers yet? If they have any offers, how does the seller want to handle multiple offers? And that's where they might say, well, we're going to go through the weekend and then we're going to send out an email for a highest and best, or, put your offer in now, that type of thing. You never know, because sometimes you don't have, if you put an offer in and it's a great offer with great terms, you never know, the seller may accept it. The biggest one, I think the most important is number 5, what we just said, find out the time frames and their motivation. That way, if there's something pressing, let's say it's an older family and they need extra time to move out of the house. Maybe you can offer them a longer closing if you know about it up front, or what we call a use and occupancy, where maybe they close and they rent back from you for 60 days. But you're not going to know what's important to them unless you ask. Has anybody had a situation like that before, where they've made an offer and they found out that, yes, price is obviously very important, but maybe there was something else that was very important to a seller?
Yes, one of my closings, we did do like a 3-day occupancy after closing. But I had difficulty with the listing agent communicating throughout the entire process. So we weren't aware there was an issue until 24 hours before our closing. So yeah, it got kind of sticky.
Yeah,
It worked out in the end, but we would have been glad to extend that closing, or extend the stay time for the elderly.
So
family.
maybe if you guys had talked about it up front, it could have been written into the contract and would have relieved everybody's stress. When
Absolutely.
it's really important that you ask that question, especially, in a competitive situation, which is more the norm these days. And don't think that other people may not be asking. So maybe your offer terms are exactly the same, but you've put in the comments or additional items that you will, you can afford a longer close, or you would be able to do a lease and occupancy. And that may set you apart from the other offers. But if you don't ask, you're not going to know. Find out what is important to the seller before you write the offer so you can put it in. Ask the listing agent how they want to receive the offer. Sometimes I see a lot now, I don't know about anybody else, but they'll tell you, put it in a single PDF. Don't submit it in DocuSign or .loop. Ask them how they want to receive the offer. Don't send them multiple attachments. Has anybody started to see that, where there's, they're asking, listing agents are asking, put it in a single PDF. Don't send the separate seller's disclosure or pre-approval. Put it together. You want to make it easy for them. You want to show them that you are professional and you know what you're doing. So they feel confident that you're going to get them at the end of the day to the closing table, because that's what everybody wants, right? We all have the same goal in mind. So if you send them an offer that's flim-flam, you're missing documents, it's not together, what message is that sending to the listing agent? Bueller? Anyone?
You're disorganized.
You're disorganized. What else?
That
Maybe
you don't
your lack
care
of
as much.
experience, maybe I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just that you're not really putting your effort into, getting it through to close. But
Mhm.
see, I've had difficulty with the listing agent side, but I have a TC coordinator, so nothing goes out without another set of eyes going through everything. So I think Keller Williams is great with that for new agents.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely, but really pick up the phone and call and, ask, how do you want to receive the contract? What's easy for you? How would you like to see it? What's the easiest for you and your client? Bend over backward for them. And they'll remember that. Wow, she really she really wants this, that her clients really want this house. They're asking the right questions. I feel good about working with this agent, and I feel like I'll get to the closing table. I mean, it starts from the moment you send that offer in. And with the offer comes the pre-approval letter, right? Or proof of funds. So that should be with the contract also. If you're paying cash, you need proof of funds. If you're waiving appraisal, you need proof of funds. If you're waiving part of the appraisal, let's say you have a house that's 400,000, you're going in at 420 and you're waiving everything from asking price and above, you need to show $20,000 as proof of funds. Anybody have any thoughts or questions about that? Review the MLS and the tax records. A lot of times make sure you spell such simple things. Make sure you're spelling the seller's name right. Look at the tax record.
What about earnest money?
Earnest money, we're going to get to that because that's a way to make your offer more competitive. We're going to talk about deposit. Now, again, you guys need to help me out. Help me help you, because how we do it in New Jersey may be different than how you do it in your part of the country. So if you've got something to share, please share it, because I'm not the expert in the Midwest or the West and how you guys maybe handle waiving of appraisals or earnest money or all that other good stuff that helps, you win offers out there. How many of you give your clients a competitive market analysis to educate and inform your buyers when you're making an offer?
Me.
yes.
Yes. You want them. I know it can be hard, especially in this market. And I've found that the best competitive market analysis is the under contracts, because those are the most recent things that houses that have gone under contract. I made a phone call yesterday and another one today. My client is going to be in a bidding. I'm in a highest and best for Thursday. I went through and called the other listing agents who have similar properties in that neighborhood that are under contract. And I didn't say, tell me your price, but I asked them questions. Did you come close to asking? Did you get a lot of offers? That type of thing, because I'm trying to help my clients make a decision on what's the right price, even for listings, same thing. Does everybody here also use seller disclosure statements and lead paint addendums?
Yes.
Yes. Make
Yes.
sure they're signed. Make sure you've checked off the right boxes. This is just the checklist of what you're going to want to do while you're crafting your offer. So let me ask you guys real quick. What are some of the questions, we kind of went over it, that you would ask the listing agent when you're preparing the offer? We just kind of went through it.
What's their motivation for selling?
Yep. What's their motivation for selling? Why are they selling? Are they moving? Do they have are they looking for a certain time frame? What's important to your sellers? What else?
How many showings?
How many showings?
Do you have any
Very important question.
How would they like the documents sent to them?
Wow. Yep. Correct.
And then do you have any offers?
Do you have any other offers? If the answer is yes, how is your seller accepting the offers? Are you doing a highest and best? Find out how they're handling multiple. How are you handling multiple offers?
If you want to ask also if the offers are already in hand.
Yes, excellent question. That's an excellent question. How many offers do you have in hand? Because they'll tell you, oh, we have a lot of activity. Great. How many offers do you have in hand? Because they may or may not have any offers in hand. And that the bag, a lot of people tell you, oh, how many buying agents have said to me, my offer's coming, my clients really want to make an offer, and then nothing, and then it's crickets. How many offers do they have in hand?
I'm sorry. Do we get a copy of this checklist, or is there somewhere I can find it?
Yes, so you should have a copy of the presentation. I'll put the link in the chat.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I don't know why I can't find it.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Good question. But yeah, try to find out. That's, information like that is key. Because it's hard I find it hard. I'm going to guide my clients very differently if it's a highest and best, or there's no offers in hand, or they're expecting one offer, or or there's one offer. It's a different strategy, right? This is all about strategy and how much my clients want that house. But it's a different strategy on it. Would you guys agree that it's a little bit of a different strategy if there's no offers or a highest and best?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You got to know that up front. So now we're gonna get to the meat of the offer. What we're gonna do when you write an offer. So obviously, the most important thing 99% of the time is the price and the terms. So, we are the guide. We are not the boss. Our clients are the boss. We can't tell them what to offer. We can only guide them, give them the information, and based on that information, they will make a decision on what they want to offer on the house. A really good question that I ask a lot of times to really get a feel for how much my clients want the house. How would they feel if they lost the house by $5,000 or $10,000? Will they be okay with that? Because over the course of 30-year conventional mortgage, $5,000 or $10,000 is a few dollars a month. So how would they feel if they lost that house over a $3,000, $5,000, $7,000? Are they going to be able to put their head on the pillow at night and be okay? That's a big question that I ask them because it really makes them think. You guys feel that would be a good question to ask?
Yes.
Yes. And it really, because it puts it on them to think about it. And they may say, oh my God, I'm going to lose the house over 10 grand over 30 years. It's silly. Let's just do it. Or they'll be like, nope, that's it. But you can't make the decision for them. It's their decision. And you never want a client to come back and say, you told me to offer $550 and now you didn't appraise, or this and that and the other thing. You don't want that. You guide them, you give them all the information, maybe you give them a little bit of a range, and you let them make their own decisions. You're a consultant. Review the seller's disclosure with them. I like to think of the seller's disclosure as a chapter in a book, making sure the property isn't in a flood zone. How old is the roof? How long have the sellers lived there? What time of electrical do they have in there? How old is the furnace, the air conditioning? Those are all the things that you want to look at. Exclusions, all those things that are in the seller's disclosure. Conveyances are really exclusions. I don't know, do you guys in other parts of the country deal with conveyances? We really don't here. It's really what you're including or excluding. Like if you're the sellers want to keep the chandelier in the dining room, that would be an exclusion. Or they want to keep it here in New Jersey. Typically the washer dryer stays with the house. If they want to exclude it, it would go there.
That's how we do it in Indiana.
Yeah. Those are the conveyances. Somebody asked me about deposit, earnest money. Now, again, this could fluctuate in other parts of the country and in other areas where maybe it's not so much of a seller's market, but what's the typical deposit you guys are seeing out there right now?
We typically do 1% here.
1%? Where are you from?
Indiana.
Indiana, man, I'm moving to Indiana. How about anybody else?
We try to at least do 3%.
3%. You know what we do in New Jersey? Between 5 and 20%.
Oof.
At least. How we do it here is we have what's called an initial deposit, and then, the deposit that's due. I'm not even going to get into attorney review. Only Westfield probably knows what I'm talking about. We typically do between 5 and 20% here. And the more, 20% is kind of the minimum right now. You imagine 20%. And even if you have earnest money is only 1 or 3%, one of the things you can do to make your offer stronger, a lot of times we break it up, half in the beginning and half at closing. A lot of times I'll tell my clients to put it all up front. Has anybody done that before? Where you front loaded the deposit to make your offer package stronger? It works, guys. It shows that your buyers are really committed to that house. It's not saying that they're going to lose their deposit, but they're putting their skin in the game up front. What do you think of that strategy? Anyone? Could you see where you could possibly, if you're up against another offer and you're both doing 3% and you're putting down, you know, you're putting down the money at closing, that if you're putting down the money earlier, it's a benefit to the seller, and it really shows that you want that house. Come on, guys, this is two-way. You don't want me to talk the whole time, do you?
I just think that's scary in case something happens and they can't get their money back.
Well, they can always get their money, you know, not always. If it's in an attorney's escrow account, which it's going to be in the seller or the buyer's escrow account, if there's a reason, it's the same thing. If there's a reason that the deal dies, they get their money back. It's just going in earlier. It's a very common practice here. It's something to think about. And again, you and your clients have to be comfortable with it, but it happens all the time up here. Very rarely do buyers get their earnest money. They don't get their money unless they've done a breach of contract. They get their money back. How about home inspections? Do you guys know, have you guys limited home inspections, or is there an amount of days that you have to do your home inspection? For those of you that have got a few closings under your belt?
We have 10 days.
Yeah,
10
so do
days.
we. 10 days.
Okay, 10 calendar days?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if you decided that you wanted to sweeten your offer, you could bring that number in. 5 days. You could limit your inspections. Environmental, safety, mechanical. We've done that too. These are all strategies that are going to set your offers apart from somebody else. I've also started seeing we waive inspections after before $5,000. So anything that comes up $5,000 or less, the buyer takes responsibility for. That's another way to separate yourself out. How about appraisals? How are we doing with mortgage appraisals? Are they a big part of the contingencies?
I believe depending on what loan they're getting, so like that.
The 30-year conventional. Are you seeing waiver of appraisals? Do our clients waiving appraisals?
I've dealt
only
with all FHA.
I didn't hear what you said. I'm so sorry.
I've only had one appraisal waived. Everyone else has done it.
Okay, good. Hopefully they're keeping it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So appraisals are a big part of the process. Hopefully you won't have to waive your appraisals. Here we starting to have to do it again. So that's something you want to, if you are doing that, that's something you want to put in the contract. Financing, putting in that pre-approval. How about love letters? Have you guys heard about love letters?
I've done them.
You have?
Yes.
Yeah, they work, right?
Yes. You just really got to be careful of what they put in it, but yes.
Well, that's exactly right. In the state of New Jersey, there's no more love letters. We call them liability letters now. Because it's be very, very, very careful if you're doing love letters. You have to watch out for fair housing violations. I won't even do them anymore. I wish I could because I've won offers from it, but we really don't do love letters anymore.
Explain a little more detail about what a love letter is. I'm still fairly new. I hadn't heard it before.
A love letter is when your buyers write a letter and they tell, oh, we've got 3 kids and we can see them growing up in the neighborhood and playing outside. And, so you've identified that it's a family and there's children. Sometimes if there's a picture, we call it an unconscious bias. You don't want to put any unconscious bias on the seller. Everybody should have equal chances. And that's why for fair housing violations, we avoid love letters.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
You could write a love letter after the house has been accepted. But
That
not
might be a
before.
good closing gift, a part of.
I'm sorry, say that again?
That might be a good after, like you said, after the house is sold, kind of just a good thank you letter type thing, love letter, thank you letter.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It just, you don't want to put any unconscious bias in a seller's head. I had kids write a love letter once, and we got the house because of, and we weren't even the highest offer. They work, but unfortunately you have to be really careful. You guys have, I threw a lot at you. Any thoughts, comments? You know, I'm telling you about the checklist and what you need to add, but I'm also throwing in some ideas that you could use to set your offer package, because it's a package, apart from other offers that will help you get them accepted in this competitive market.
I love your idea of shortening the 10-day inspection to 5.
Yeah, or to 7, you know, whatever
Yeah.
you know, your clients are comfortable with, but it is a way to differentiate your offer from somebody else's. Putting the deposit up front, reeling in the inspection contingency, waiving, you know, only doing major environmental, structural, or mechanical issues only, limiting, you know, paying for the first $2,000 of home inspection, you know, something like that. I've seen it all. And since a lot of you, thank goodness, are not dealing with appraisal issues, that is another option also. But if you don't have to go there, I wouldn't.
I wanted to second Karen's question about the earnest money deposit. When I'm new to the this career as well, and I'm wondering, you know, when do you get the earnest money deposit back? Is that at the closing table, and then that's just sort of roped into the down payment?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
you know, any of the other
Yes.
closing? Okay.
It goes into an escrow account with typically the seller's a seller's attorney, but sometimes the buyer's attorney holds it also. You're really just giving it earlier. Here in New Jersey, we have what's called an attorney review period, and I will not bore you with the details if you don't have to know about it. But right before, we have to put our deposit in 10 days after the conclusion of that section of the contract process. Before we, to make it easy, before we go into home inspection, when we're officially under contract.
Okay.
Some people only, if they're putting down 10%, for example, they'll put down 5% then, and then 5% at closing. What I'm saying is, what would make your offer potentially stronger is putting the full 10% up front and nothing at closing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
The attorney in our office did, you know, kind of warn us about making sure that you don't end up forfeiting the deposit by making sure you're, I think, extending, you know, if there's anything getting held up with the mortgage, that you make sure you're extending those approvals and things like that, because that can end up, you know, forfeiting the deposit. So, yeah, it does seem like a good idea. I'd probably want to just double check that it's similar here in Rhode Island, that there wouldn't be the possibility of losing the deposit.
I went to URI. Where's your Rhode Island accent?
Oh, I'm from Florida. I moved here 10 years ago.
Where are you in Rhode Island?
Yeah, yeah. And my name is now Jenna Kerr. It was Jenna Kerr when I was born, and now it's Jenna Kerr.
There you go. Wicked cool. Yeah, I mean, always check with your attorney, but typically to be sued for breach of contract and lose your deposit is very difficult.
Okay.
But absolutely speak to your client. They have to do what they're comfortable with. It's a very standard thing here in New Jersey.
All righty.
So I do have a question also.
Sure.
I had today actually an appointment. It was more like a listing appointment, but I had a moment of where the CMA didn't have any comparables at all. Even when I tried to switch it up a little bit and add a few more things, be more detailed, I still couldn't find any comparables. What do you do when you have that happen? I guess.
I typically look at, I try to keep my CMAs really tight, especially in this market. So I try to look at solds that are maybe 3 to 5 months out. I look at under contracts, which are really the most important ones. if I'm looking, I did one today, I look at, if I'm in a town and the town is broken up by sections, I'll look in that section. If I can't find comparables in that section, I'll go out to the next section. Or I'll go like 10 streets around the house.
Okay, okay.
If I'm looking at only ranches and I can't find any ranches, I'll move out to another style house.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. So just sometimes you have to kind of really get specific to the type of property, even the different areas, not just that section or area or neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in, you know, your town, what town do you live in?
Well, this was Mississippi. It was in the country, so that probably was called Coldwater.
Yeah, so
Mississippi.
if I would look in all of Coldwater and maybe, I mean, and I'm not familiar with the land, you know, how it works, but I would maybe look in the next town over if I had to, or try to get all of, or in that county.
Okay, okay.
Similar houses sold
I'm gonna work on
within a
practicing
certain
that
time
tonight.
frame or under contract.
All right, thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yes, I'm gonna try to practice that tonight, try to expand it a little bit and see if I can find something to work for.
You know, expand it. Here, because we're in a very urban area, I try to go 10 streets out. I do like a circle around 10 streets or a section.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're right. You're welcome. And you guys all over have to do you have to submit a pre-approval letter with your offer?
Yes. In Mississippi.
Mostly the seller.
Yep. Okay. I mean, that's really important to make sure that your pre-approval is really tight. What I like to do also is if I'm offering 500,000 on a house, I'm not going to send them a pre-approval that says my buyers are pre-approved for 550. You don't want, you don't want them to know that they're approved for more than what you're offering. You know, that's your ace in the hole. So I try to make sure my pre-approvals match the amount that I'm offering on the property. You guys understand? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it makes sense.
Closing date, again, we talked about this. Make sure that you know what the seller is looking for a closing date. Do they need a short close? Do they need a long close? Do they need a little extra time? What's important to them?
With the pre-approval now, are you working that out with the lender to make sure that it matches, or?
Yes, absolutely. Your buyer, your client, because you've gone through I'm sure you'll have had a buyer consult and you'll explain to them that when we're making an offer on a property, you want to make sure the lender is right in the pre-approval for the amount. And I always, we're a team. There's no I in team. It's the attorney, it's the lender, it's the title company, it's your client. I make sure that I know who the lender is. I've had a conversation with him. He knows who I am, because we're all trying to get to that finish line, right? So you have a conversation with the lender.
Okay.
We don't do a lot of home warranties here unless we have to, especially in a seller's market. Repairs. Home inspection can be the most prickliest part of the package. Make sure that the buyers understand that, they may have to put some money aside for repairs. Find out what's most important to your client. Is it the roof? Is it, the leaky shower in the master bedroom? And make sure they understand that typically, if you don't like the paint color on the wall, that's not a repair item. It's not for cosmetic issues. It's for major structural, environmental, safety, mechanical issues of the house. And then the contingency is the home inspection. It is the mortgage approval, that your sellers have gotten or your buyers have gotten their mortgage, their approval. And part of that is the appraisal. That's kind of, what everything that would go in. Seller's disclosure, lead paint addendum, pre-approval, proof of funds, all together in one PDF to make it easy. So when you're doing this with your clients, especially if you have first-time home buyers, and what I did when I first started, I took a contract, I printed it out, and I did a fake one. So I had it in front of me because you are going to have to talk through that contract with your clients and they're going to ask you questions. So if they ask you, well, what does this clause mean? You kind of know what it means. Take a contracts class in your, in your market center. Make sure you understand your state contract, because you are going to have to sort of explain it if they have a question. Really helped me when I took a sample, printed it out, and had it in front of me with my notes and what to write. Because you're going to, you are going to be reviewing price, closing date, inspection. They're going to want to know, well, what does that mean in home inspection? I have 10 days. You want to make sure you understand the terms, right? You are guiding them. You are their teacher, sort of. They're relying on you to help them get that house. Know what is essential in your area. Like in my area, I know what the listing agents are looking for, and they pretty much tell you in their highest and best instructions. If you're waiving the appraisal, I need this and this. If you're doing anything with home inspection, it's becoming standard here. So make sure you understand what your market environment looks like in your area. Make sure that, if your first deposit is due 10 days after you do your inspection or whatever it is in your state, that that your clients know that. Do not rely on the attorneys. That would be something that could be a breach if you miss a deposit date. Making sure that you get your mortgage commitment. If it's 30 days, then you need to have unless you put it in writing, like what somebody said, the attorney, make sure you extend the dates. Make sure you extend the dates.
Leslie, I just have a question. If you would be covering the seller's credit, which is, I think, part of the closing, is that something you would talk about today?
Seller's credit. What do you mean?
I don't know. I just saw something I came across on Instagram, and how another agent was selling to help your buyer. You can include a seller's credit for your home buyer. And I don't know how it was, I guess, getting down like a mortgage payment down or something like that. But
yeah, when we thought, at least in this area, there was a little bit of a shift coming, we were trying to get creative on how we could, for our sellers, maybe give a buyer credit. A seller's credit could be if you're in a competitive situation, maybe your buyer wants to pay the commission on your, pay your commission. That would be some sort of seller's credit. Or you're paying their certificate of occupancy, something like that, you mean?
yeah, I guess I'm not too sure what they were referring to either.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yeah, they're just saying how like, oh, this will help get your points down for a home buyer, and it'll make it more manageable with payments or something like that, they said.
Yeah, there's ways to get points and to give points, and that's all. Speak to your lenders that you work with, and they'll be able to give you the options.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, what they're probably referring to is when you buy down your interest rate. Is that what they were talking about?
Yes, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you got that right.
Yeah, so it's sort of, if the house is 500, let's say you offer 510, and then it's a seller's credit, so that you would get 10,000. The buyer gets that $10,000 is roped into the mortgage, so they're paying it over 30 years. But then they would end up with a check of 10,000 at the end.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And when we thought there was a shift, and we were trying to incent, sellers needed something to incent a buyer, we started playing around with that. And then we opened up our eyes, and it was a seller's market again. So we didn't get too far with that, at least over here. But that is an option. But again, talk to some lenders, and they are very well versed in how to do that. I'm sorry, who was talking before that explained it?
Oh, that was me.
Thank you. You did a good job. I wish we had more of that. I wish we could have more of that here. So a lot of this stuff, guys, is common sense. Double check your documents. Is nothing like sending an offer over and your client didn't sign, or you forgot to put the deposit amount or the closing date. Follow the instructions again, how the listing agent wants to see the client, wants to see the offer. Separate documents, one PDF. Everything is clearly labeled in the subject line. Put offer 123 Main Street, John Doe. What I highly recommend is on your email, put an email summary for the listing agent. Something just like with the terms, the main terms of your offer right there in front of them. Below is the offer summary and the list of attached documents of behalf of my buyer. Their names, the sale price, the closing, the financing, the pre-approval, any other, incentives that they're offering, what's attached. This is a perfect example of an email summary for the listing agent. So if I'm the listing agent, I'm not thumbing through a whole PDF. I can see what they're offering. I can see what the closing date is, what the home inspection is, the pre-approval is attached, any other incentives that they want to offer. And they've written here what they've attached. I also say, please confirm receipt. Nothing like having your offer go in and the listing agent says, I never got it. Text them, let them know your offer's coming. Text them again, email them, let them know you sent it and have them confirm receipt. You guys have any questions on this? This is a really important thing to do.
That's pretty straightforward and it makes sense.
Yeah, it's really, it makes everybody's life a lot easier. So now let's say, I'm sorry, does somebody have a question?
Sorry, no, I was going to say I do have a bad habit of updating my opportunities in command. I'm working on
Yeah, I will tell you that it will make writing the offers a lot easier if everything is already, if you have the opportunity in command, you have the contact in command, because then in .loop, I would assume most everybody's using DocuSign. I'm sorry, DocuSign. It automatically should flow in.
Okay.
It will make it so much easier and a big time saver. If you have it in command, have the contacts in command, have the opportunity, and then it'll just flow into DocuSign. And the other thing I would really say again is practice this. Don't wait until you have an offer. Practice it. Just like you practice your scripts, just like you practice your listing appointments, your buyer consultations, your objection handling. Practice writing an offer. You don't want to do it for the first time in front of your client, do you? Make sure you understand, how to write the offer. In my market center, we offer a contracts class once a month, or that we have stuff online. We have pre-recorded classes on it. So let's say you're the listing agent and you've just gotten your offer. And so what do you want to do before you present to your sellers, right? You want to make sure the offer is complete and has all the necessary documents. If not, you got to go back and ask the buyer's agent for the documents. How are you feeling about this buyer's agent if they forgot to have their client sign the contract? Are you going to want to do a deal with them? Not really. Confirm receipt of the offer with the buyer's agent. The two of you need to start building a rapport together, right? Because you want to get your deal to the closing table. Communicate, and over communicate. Get the offer to the seller in a timely manner. I know in New Jersey, once you receive an offer, you have 24 hours to get it to your seller. Now, I don't, depending on how your client wants, maybe they want all the offers in an Excel spreadsheet. Maybe they want you to come over and talk to them about it. Maybe they want to do a Zoom. Maybe they want to have a conference call or phone call. But make sure that you go through the offers with your client. Create an executive summary. What I do when I get multiple offers is I do just that. I'll make an Excel spreadsheet with every single offer, the price, the deposit, the home inspection, the proof of funds, the pre-approval, so they can just look through it on one sheet of paper. What I really like to do when I'm a listing agent is number 5. Call the buyer's agent to gather more information about the transaction. You're not asking about personal characteristics of the character, but gauging the strength of the offer by focusing on their ability to buy. Have they made a lot of offers on other properties is a big one for me. Have they been under contract with another property? That tells me if they've made a lot of offers and they've been under contract, they're wishy-washy. Why do they like this house? Try to understand what the buyer's motivation is. And here's some of the questions that they have. Do the buyers have a home to sell? Well, usually you're going to put in the contract that the clients have no home sale contingency and they have nothing to sell. That's a big one. Why did they select the property? Have the buyers seen the home, or are they offering a sight unseen? That's a big one. So that scares me. And I've had that happen where, especially during COVID, that people were making offers on properties unseen and then they would make an offer, we would accept it, and they get to the house and they're like, nah, we don't like it. So you really want to know that the clients have seen the property. How did they come to another big one? How did they come to that number? The house is on the market for 500, and they came in at 475. How did they get to that number? And then have they made offers on other properties? Has the listing agent worked with the lender before? That's important too. Because at the end of the day, the mortgage, I like to call it the long pole in the tent. It comes at the end of the process. And if your buyers do not get their mortgage, the deal is going to die. And then that puts everybody back a few months. Can you guys see the value in asking these questions before you talk to your seller? Anyone?
Yes.
I always ask, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Some of them are common sense, but they're important questions to know about just like we want to know the motivation of the seller, we want to know the motivation of the buyer.
I was gonna say, I would ask how quickly are they trying to move? Are they trying to close quickly once they have this deal? Do they have somewhere to, do they want the seller to be gone at the day of closing and things?
Well, typically they have to be gone, right? Because once that house closes, it's not the seller's house anymore. So the house has to be empty, broom swept, unless they get special permission for something beforehand by the attorneys. But that all has to come out way before the closing. And we talked about calling the lender. I ask permission from the buying agent. Do you mind if I personally like to call the buyer's lender, and I want to introduce myself, and I want to make sure that everything's been verified. It's not just a letter that says, yeah, they can buy a house. It's a true pre-approval. Have they gone to underwriting? Is the loan contingent on a home sale? Have they worked with the buyer's agent before? Again, the mortgage is really important. You want to make sure you have a strong pre-approval, not a pre-qualification, a pre-approval, that they've verified their income, their assets, their credit. Has it, maybe part of it's already gone to underwriting. And on the same foot, you want to let the listing agent know that this isn't just a flim-flam pre-approval. They've already gone to underwriting. They've been verified. They are getting their mortgage. That's a strong statement to make, and could help you get your offer accepted. Make sure your buyers' pre-approvals are tight. And when you speak to your sellers, have the outline of all the important items from the contract. Anybody had a listing yet?
Yes.
Yes? How'd it go? Congratulations, by the way.
It was good. Thank you.
Did you get a lot of offers?
Yes, because my first one was actually my first two were in 2021, which is when it was crazy here in Indiana.
So how did your sellers decide on which offer to take?
They went with the one who was not going to ask for repairs. He did do an inspection for his information only, but then he did ask for a repair, but they just did it because he also offered the highest.
Okay. So not only was it the highest, but your sellers liked that they limited their home inspection.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about, guys. How are you going to differentiate your offer besides the price that's going to incent the sellers to take your offer? That's a perfect example. And you want to be able to go through these pluses and minuses with your client. So when you got those multiple offers, you went through all the offers with them, correct?
Yes.
Yep. And this one stood out because of that.
Yes.
Were there any other offers that had some fun little contingencies to it that stood out to them, or just it was all price?
That one, I think that one may have been the only one that waived the inspection, but there actually was one that was higher, but it was an FHA. So they weren't gonna I believe that one actually he was gonna match, he was gonna go over appraisal if need be to get them what they wanted.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I had two right next door to each other, so I'm getting the two houses confused right now.
Oh, well, that's a fun problem to have.
Yeah, their neighbor, after they sold, their neighbor said, well, we're gonna move too, and let me list their home. So it was great.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Love that. But that is a very good example of differentiating your offer. Is if you have two offers and they're all like the price is right here. Well, what's this other offer doing that makes it a little bit sweeter for me? And then here's an example of a seller, of what how you could kind of put together the seller summary. The offer is the buyer will deposit some contingency, just a summary, however your area does it.
And his agent did call and ask, about closing because they were going to be contingent to buy their other home. And so he was very willing to let them take their time if need be and move closing if they needed to.
Right. But they called you ahead of time.
Yes.
And told you that they were able to do whatever your client needed.
Yes. He had been looking for a house for, I think she told me 2 years. He was specific on what he wanted in the location. And yes, that's what happened.
Yep. And he didn't want to lose it. So he went above and beyond to make sure that didn't happen.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the same thing with the seller side. They can counter the offer and you're going to go into negotiation, and hopefully all parties can meet in the middle and where everybody's happy, and you move on to the next step. Or when the moon and the sun and the stars are aligned, they say, great, we'll accept that offer, and you begin the contract process. Or they reject the offer and you have to figure out, the buyer agent contacts the other agent and tries to understand why they rejected your offer. And no doesn't always mean no. Maybe they'll say, hey, if you come up $10,000, he would give it a second look. Or if you come up with a better closing date, or you bring your home inspection deadlines in, something. No doesn't always mean no. So as we wrap up, does anybody have any ahas or anything that you're thinking has changed? We talked about the overall offer process. We spoke about preparing your buyer's offer, how we can make it a little bit different. It really involves communication with your buyer, with the other agent. Everybody needs to communicate. Was there anything in there that surprised you about writing the offer?
For me, it's what kind of questions to ask the listing agent. That's appropriate. I liked the list that you gave, and also the outline to send with the contract. I hadn't done that. I wasn't advised to do it, but that seems to me to be extremely important. I get lost in the 10 contracts that need sent. So I like that too.
Yeah, a quick summary, and then it helps the listing agent too show their sellers, because everything is sort of, bing, 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 bing. I mean, it makes it a lot easier, and it's very professional.
My aha was learning that it's best to, go make sure you go all the way around, talk to the lender, talk to the listing agent, talk to everyone to make sure all ends are met, so that when you get to the closing table, everything is already good. Or even when the offer is made, you already, everything's already ready. So the sellers have easier decisions to make when time comes.
Absolutely. Good point. Over communicate. There is no I in team. You're not going to get to the closing table unless everybody's on the same page, because, real estate transactions can be prickly, and you want to make sure that everybody's together to get, it's got the same goal in mind, and you get to their, on the same page. You need your whole team. You need your lender. You need your home inspector. You need your attorney. You need your client. You need everybody to be in lockstep. And there's never too many questions. I mean, if you're asking too many questions, they'll tell you, but always peel that onion back. Try to get down to as many layers as possible. I mean, I asked a listing agent today of a property that was under contract, was her investor happy with the offer that he got? Because I was trying to figure out if his numbers worked for him, that he bought the property at, how much he put into it. And if he was those are the types of, I was trying to get her to tell me what I needed to know to help my client. And if they don't want to answer, okay, then they don't have to. That's perfectly, I respect that. But if I don't ask, I'm not going to know. Information is power. So any other thoughts, comments, questions? Has this been helpful? I know it was kind
Yes,
of a
very
lot.
much so.
Good, I'm glad.
Oh, that
I'll
was
put in
very
the
helpful.
chat the participation guide to make sure you guys have the presentation.
Yes, I
And
have it.
that's-
I'm gonna review.
I wish you guys much success in your spring markets. It's going to be a good one. Sell
Um,
lots of deals. This is the beginning of your career, and plug your nose, close your eyes, and jump in the pool.
Thank you.
And we will be starting these sessions all over again. And if I'm not sure when, but I would say within the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for your time and in joining. And I will put the link to the presentation in the chat.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you so
This is
much.
great.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.